We are going to unpack the piece of your generational or family trauma that you are having trouble understanding. How to know if this is for you. If you look at the surface level of this wound, it appears in your family as past life wounds, almost like nobody really knows what the heck the actual root of it is. It's just habits that have always been carried on, especially when it comes to emotional repression and the way that your family deals with emotion. So there's something that is almost like done incorrectly when it comes to emotions, and everyone knows it, but nobody does anything about it, and nobody can really understand why. It's because it's much deeper than that. Let's unpack it. What can we know about the past life wounds and how they show up for your family? We have moral injury, suffering from a deep conflict between personal values and actions taken or witnessed, often seen in military veterans or individuals who have experienced ethical dilemmas. So it feels like there was something very significant that impacted the way that those in your generation before, in the generations before you, almost like they didn't know that the proper tools were available to process emotions because they were so let down by what they saw going on around them. Anger and resentment, it caused them to be very angry about what was allowed to happen to those who were in some way looked down on or did not have the means to fight back against whatever they were up against. And as I said that I'm losing my voice, it's almost like this blanket of silence that was put on those that came before you that this wound is generating from. It's like they were angry about mistreatment, and rightfully so, but a force bigger than them was silencing them. And it feels like you carry these past life wounds into this lifetime. And how does that show up for you in particular? Existential despair. This person's in a jail cell. It feels like a mental prison because there's lack of tools given to you to properly process the emotions that are more difficult to reach or understand. And there's feelings of hopelessness, feelings of questioning the purpose, of almost like, if I can't put down the heaviness of this wound that I can't really all the way understand, what's the point in trying to sift through the emotions if it's not getting any lighter? Father wound. There's a feeling here of not feeling emotionally protected. So that could show up as a literal father wound, or that could show up as a caretaker wound of someone who dropped the ball when it came to protecting you and making you feel emotionally safe. How does this show up? How does this same wound show up for someone that you are close to in your family line? The person that comes to mind as I say that. Shadow work. It feels like there's an avoidance of shadow work with that person. Like they know their triggers and they try to avoid them, but they don't try to unpack them, so they're not making forward progress is what it feels like. And it feels like that's kind of obvious to you. There's some spiritual clarity confusion here. I'm not sure what to do to best help myself type energy when it comes to the other person. So what's the access point of this wound? How can we start to heal this one step at a time? So we have inferiority wound and envy wound. Stop looking externally and comparing yourself to others. Know and believe that there's a purpose for what you've had to endure so far. And as you begin to unpack it, you're going to see that it didn't start with you, but it can end with you if you're the one who's willing to look at the shadows and bring your light to them.